And there we have it. There you go, chat. There you go. You had to bitch a little, like we had to bitch a little, but there we go. That is how you actually supposed to do it. Now, for people that may have not known or maybe just now realized it, essentially they want back the changes. They want back the changes. Round Us 2 is no longer going to be changing the costumes, the wild and ass illustration, or anything like that. They're actually listening to the people. They're actually doing it for the people. They understand that, yeah, we made a terrible effing decision, and now we're walking back those changes and actually giving you the game that you honestly should not have been taken away from when it comes down to it. That is what we like to see. That is what we love to see when it comes down to it. You own up to it, you understand it was a bad call, and when it comes down to it, you go back and say, no, we're not going to change what the game actually is. That's what we love to see. Now, this still does mean, obviously, the trust between the devs and the players is pretty shattered when it comes down to it, right? Let's keep it very much a stack. Even though you say that, you're not going to do this stuff anymore when it comes down to the censorship, that's still already, the damage is still pretty much already done for a lot of people. A lot of people are not necessarily going to sit here and trust the devs when it comes down to it until they prove themselves that actually, yeah, we're not going to, hoe ourselves when it comes down to the characters that we want to drop and make and illustrate in whatever way possible. We're going to do the things that we want to do. That still has to be shown just throughout a lot of time now because that trust is just not there right now. So that's just genuinely how it is. However, from me personally, I will be willing to give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes down to it, to give them a second chance. And there's actually a good reason for this, at least in terms of a second chance. I think they do deserve, honestly. And that's solely because they actually explain why they even made the changes in the first place. What caused it to happen in the first place. And immediately, even before I even read what was going on, I was like, oh, they actually explain what was going on to a degree? That's better than most people that go through these sort of changes entirely. Like, that's way better than anybody, just basically saying nothing and then just, doing the thing, right? That's way better of a response. In the live stream that they had only like a few hours ago, essentially, they was basically saying that external forces outside the company basically tried to hold them. Which, are we surprised that this is the case? No, we are not. We have literally seen this in many points in times where, some random force, whether it's an activist group, whether it's a, MasterCard or Visa, whether it's a country and its government itself, come through and basically try to tell a game, hey, you can't do this, or, you can't sell this game, or you can't showcase this game at all when it comes down to it. And it's stupid every single time, right? Every single time it happens, it doesn't make any sort of sense. Again, if a person wants to play that sort of game, let them play that sort of game instead of getting hoed because you deem it to be weak and you deem it to not necessarily be something that's, for people. Like, let the people actually choose whether or not they actually want to be a part of it. But ultimately, external forces like that is what caused that change to happen. Now, also, I do need to mention, we don't have a fully actually translated version of this whole live stream, so we're just kind of getting it from wherever we kind of can. So there is information that is out there that is being said that obviously sounds good, but then we don't know if it's actually the truth. But most of it is pretty much on point with what everybody is kind of saying as well. So I'll read some of what I found here. So to kind of just go into some of the quotes that I seen, or at least in this translated message I see, one was like, basically, many of you were most worried about things like what exactly is the standard for revisions and who will be targeted next. To be honest, the warning criteria for the external organization were so vague that they were difficult to clearly define even internally. And in that process, my use of the ambiguous expression clearly an adult only ended up increasing your anxiety and distrust. Skipping a little bit further, basically he's just like, because everything is done and is based on approvals from rating boards, we judge that if service were to be suspended even in a single country, it would very likely trigger a chain reaction of reports to other national authorities and lead to additional reviews. At present, monitoring intensity and censorship standards for content are being broadly tightened worldwide, and Round Dust 2 has been under continuous scrutiny from multiple organizations. Because we believe that service suspension could happen again, we conclude that simply separating a single country would not be a fundamental solution. To be completely honest, I felt a strong sense of crisis that if successive service suspensions were to continue, it would become difficult to maintain normal operations around us 2 going forward. So again, basically, just to kind of point out, they got hoed by whoever the hell this external organization is. Whoever decided to say, yeah, this game is doing too much. We need to tell them to shut up and calm down and do, obviously the things that we want them to do instead of them doing their own thing. That's pretty much what we've been seeing again for months now regarding Steam, regarding itch.io, regarding like many other games and companies that are basically trying to tell people, yeah, you can't do this much lewd content in your game. You can't do this. You can't do that. Even though the game is adult oriented and it's for the adult audience, they'll still throw out whatever sign they can to say F you, that's not how this works. And it's stupid every single time. Every single time it happens, it doesn't make sense. And it annoys me to no end when it comes down to it. Just because if people want to enjoy a game like that, if people want to play a game like that, that is up to their choice. That should be their choice when it comes down to it. And it's very baffling that it's not up to people's choices and people will just force a choice because they have to, or because, people will just literally not let people choose. It's dumb across the damn board. So basically after this, they basically said that, what, just because, certain countries have brought up this sort of, idea and this vagueness of the policies and stuff like that too, we're basically going to go by region and then just choose which region gets what type of content. Basically what they're going to do, at least from what it sounds like, it seems like they're going to make a censored version of Round Dust 2 and an uncensored version of Round Dust 2, and then they'll apply whatever version they need to on whatever region of the world they need to just do it for, right? Which could be the UK, could be Australia, could be anywhere in the world when it comes down to it. And, honestly, that's fair. I think that's a bit better. Not the best option, but it's honestly a better option. Just because at the end of the day, at least not everybody is going to have to get their ass beat when it comes down to it. Right? That's the good thing. Not everybody together has to get their ass beat with censorship when it comes down to it. Because apparently, as of well, one of the skins that I talked about the first time when we talked about Round Dust 2, literally was also already pre-censored. The one with the damn girl in the kimono, or the Shrine Maiden outfit, I should say, that basically had like the buns sealed away. Like, that was already censored. This is what it looks like. She has a buns. She has cheeks. She has the glorious cheeks that was already censored. So they already had this shit ready to go when it come down to it. And they just already was gonna just set it like that. But this would have been missing. We would have been missing this shit. Hell no. I'm gonna need this. I'm gonna need these for sure when it comes down to it. So ultimately, they already had a lot of stuff probably already prepared to censor when it comes down to it. And obviously from what they've said in this translation, yeah, they didn't want to effing do it, but at the same time, they didn't want to take a risk like this too. Also, I heard somewhere too that their legal team, their business team or whatever, isn't necessarily that strong, and that's why something like this ended up happening as well, which, crazy. You have a damn very good, successful gacha game, and essentially you have no legal team whatsoever, or your legal team is not really the strongest it can be. That's like the first thing you try to get ready with, right? It's obviously that if you're going to launch a game, you need to have a legal team in place just in case for, things like this don't happen, or, stuff like that in general, right? Because ultimately when you have things like this that happen, it just gets, it gets messy. But regardless though, I am glad that they do have the sense of awareness to reflect and it basically just be like, yeah, let's really think about this. Let's really look at this when it comes down to it, because we're basically trying to kill our own game essentially. And if we don't have that stuff back in there and we listen to whatever these policies for these external organization people are, then that's going to body the whole entirety of what we got. Because America's mad, South Korea's pissed off, JP boys, I've seen one comment basically saying that they're fine with the changes, which is crazy as hell. But I would like to hope somebody in JP is mad. But when it comes down to it, though, it's just like, yeah, this is just not it. It's not. It's just not good. This is not a good time, honestly. And if you, and again, they would rather now regionalize the damage of censorship, and rather just have it locked by region than just do the whole global game like that, which probably is going to be a lot more work, probably is going to be a lot more annoying to maintain instead of just having one version of the game. But I would rather you do that than basically take away the whole damn game when it comes down to it. I'm also glad that in that translation they also called out this to be dead ass just straight up censorship, and the fact that they also pointed out that, yeah, we should not be trying to take away characters from you, or change what the characters are from you in some shape and form. We should try to protect these characters that you like, and that's just how it is, that we should just be operating like we normally should have had. And I'm just like, yes, this is what I like to see. This is the response I've been wanting y'all to say since this nonsense started. This has been the most hectic weekend for these people, but ultimately they finally came around and said the things that they needed to say. Again, is the bridge burnt for a fair amount of people? Absolutely. For me personally, this makes me want to just boot up the game again. I haven't booted up in months, but ultimately I would want to boot it up again just because, they actually are like, yeah, we effed up pretty bad. Here's the actual situation of why things are pretty bad. And then ultimately we're going to just, continue operations as we should have before. And this just makes me want to boot up the game, actually. Like, no shit. This actually makes me want to play Brown Dust 2 again. So, I don't know. I might just do that. I might just do that. I am very curious, though, to know who the hell are the external organization that try to censor the game for everybody. And then at the very same time, I want to know what region is going to get hit with it. Because if we know what region, because if we see or hear somebody getting the censored version of that, game in that region, then ultimately we're going to, figure out who the hell said what needed to be said about the game needing to get changed in some shape or form. I feel like that'll be a telltale sign when it comes down to it, right? Because again, it just baffles me that people really have the power to say, no, this game can't be like this. You got to change it up to fit standards and fit global standards, and that's how they kind of went about it. And I understand why, right? I think after reading this, for sure, everybody should understand that, yeah, if you were probably in that position, you probably would think the same thing too. And because no one's telling you anything, they gave you a vague ass response as to what the policy actually should be and what it is. And then ultimately it could run down to multiple troubles down the road if you just censor one thing and then they could say another thing and another thing. So I fully get why they did that. And I'm glad they were transparent enough to tell us that, yeah, that shit was not in our hands. It was by other people, and that's all we could really do. But ultimately, still, it's going to be a little bit of time for people to actually trust them again. We're going to have to see like a shit ton of lewd things from Brown Dust to basically kind of be like, all right, we trust you again, but just don't pull that type of shit again, right? It's going to take a little minute before that ends up happening, but we'll see. Hopefully we'll see, and hopefully they'll stick to it, to what they're actually trying to do. I think one of the biggest takeaways that we can have from this, definitely, is that for sure, when people band together and, people are transparent and tell us what the hell is going on and things like that, we can get shit done. We could actually beat a lot of the censorship and stuff like that if people just literally packed in and locked in and basically, care about the fight and literally just say, yeah, no, this is bad. This is not a good decision here, right? If people lock in more like the Blue Archive community, then we would definitely be avoiding a lot of situations like this, right? And again, anybody can sit here and say, but this is a gooner game. This is objectifying women and all that sort of stuff. Bitch, who cares? If you don't like it, don't enjoy the content, then dip off somewhere else. Literally leave us our game and literally let people play who want to play. And that's just genuinely how it is. And that's not just with games, that's with any content, right? If you want people to enjoy your content, they should be able to do so, not be held by external factors when it comes down to it. At the end of the day, it's the choice of the person if they want to enjoy that sort of content or not. That's just genuinely how it is, and nothing else should be taking precedent as to, what takes over the decision making of that, right? That's just genuinely how it is. So ultimately, again, once again, it proves the point. It shows you again that yes, if people stand together and actually, fight with each other and actually, stick and lock in together, you can actually make a change happen. You can. Now, some companies will be assholes and just not do the obvious right decision. But ultimately, you can get situations like this where it wins and it works out for everybody, right? So, that's just how it is. But yeah, hopefully again, this don't ever happen again around us too. Hopefully we can just enjoy the game for what it is. The beautiful, lewd, crazy mess of a game that it absolutely is, but we love it for it. And hopefully, again, as time goes on, people will just go back to the game and just enjoy it for what it is. Because honestly, to be real, I would argue that Brown Dust 2 is that, in terms of illustrations, it's that game. It is that game when it comes down to it. So that's just how it is for me personally. But again, what a battle this has been. So hopefully you did enjoy this whole saga of it. If you have, and if you've been here and you've been liking the content, please subscribe when it comes down to it, because we really need to try to get this channel going somewhere with the high numbers and high people. So that's just how it is on that one. Also, if you'd like to help out the channel with the finances, then please help out with the Kofi or the Gofundme, whatever really works at this point. And when it comes down to it, if you just like to, again, follow me on Twitter, please do as well. All that's gonna be in the description. And until this, your boy Jay, signing off. Have a blessed day.